Good afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. I am so happy to have someone that I've known for, I don't know, maybe at least 20 years in the studio with me because when my sons were at Snowden Elementary School, I think she either taught one of them or both of them or
One.
something. One of them. Was it Baby Boy?
Baby boy.
Oh, it was Brian Malone.
And favorite grandson came through.
Absolutely, that's right, Trey. And so you heard the voice, so now you know it is Memphis and Shelby County School Board Chairwoman, Commissioner Althea Greene. Commissioner, Chairwoman, welcome to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you. I'm so honored and happy to be with you.
I am just so glad. I know you've got a lot going on. A lot going on with the school system, specifically the board and the search for the superintendent. So thank you so much for taking time out to come and just meet with me today. So what I really want to do is just ask you first, what's the status of the search?
So here's the status of the search. We're going to remain with HYA, the company who's been leading the search. But what we have been walking through the board retreats, what is it that the board was looking for in a superintendent? We had kind of passed some steps of board governance. Thankful for Tamika Hart, who took us back, put us back on track. 101 board governance. After 3 retreats, we were very clear about our assignment. First time we've done a national search. Many of us are new to the process. But we realized we needed to stop, pause, and reset. And so what we have done now is provided a rubric for HYA. We didn't do that on the front end. And so perhaps some people felt that candidates shouldn't have qualified. But the search firm was operating off of their rubric. Now we have gone back and added some things, visionary, somebody with a knowledge of finance. And so we've added criteria to now be infused into the rubric.
And let me just say that I think it's admirable that you took a step back to really try and figure out what direction do we really need to go in. And let me just say, you selected the right facilitator for that board retreat. I have known Tamika Hart, former school board commissioner, has been through the process. She understands it. So you had somebody guiding that process that talks your language.
Absolutely. It felt like a revival. That when we came out of there, we came out energized. We came out with an understanding and actually how to move forward with the process. I have to say, probably in March of 2023, Reverend Kenneth Whalum Jr., who was a former board member, said to us, take your time. I don't care if it takes 2 years.
Right.
If it takes 2 years to get it right, it will just take 2 years. And so I started playing that in the back of my head. We don't have to rush, Deidre.
Right.
If you want the best leader in front of Memphis Shelby County Schools, you take your time and you do it right.
I absolutely agree with you because, you know, what you don't want is to hire someone and they're there for 6 months, a year,
Right.
and you've got to go back through this process. I think you need to take your time, make sure, and it looks like you've done that. Criteria is exactly what the board wants.
Yes.
You put it back out there to see who's interested in coming to
Right.
lead.
We've opened the pool back up. And the policy stated 10 years of education, work in education, or board equivalent. We never defined it, what board equivalent was. And I think it was a struggle with the board. What is board equivalent? We didn't have that conversation.
Okay.
We were forced to have to define what we meant. And so you watched us at our special call meeting. We defined board equivalent. 10 years of work experience. Education or 10 years of work experience. We went back to say, not specifically a degree in education, but a degree, a master's. And so when you want the best in front of students, sometime with us clipping off of all of that ESSER money, we need someone who understands education, but you really need somebody with a strong finance knowledge.
I agree.
Because when you budget, when you have to deal with the budget of the second largest place in Memphis behind Federal Express.
Right.
You need someone who understands budget.
Now, what is that? But it's like 1 point what billion?
Almost $2 billion.
Almost $2 billion. And so you need someone. I was on one of the shows, and I said this because I believe, I have a teacher who's an educator, a sister that's an educator. And so I believe that public education is the key to all of our children's success, right? But sometimes when you're leading an organization that's large, there's nothing wrong with having someone that has a strong sense of business leading the organization. And at least you surround yourself with folks that have a strong sense of education.
Exactly. When you build your cabinet out,
right,
you are able then to put people around you. You think about most of the CFOs or CEOs of companies here in Memphis.
Right. Exactly.
And look at who's leading those companies and doing an outstanding job. Methodist Hospital, and we can go on. And so as a district, this is 2023. And one of the things HYA said to us is there are a lot of great non-traditional candidates out there. And so when you're looking for the best, we have to be open as a board.
So at the bottom line is it's open.
It's open.
The criteria is defined. You're now reopening
the pool.
Pool.
And we have not determined how many, but we are relying on HYA to say to us, this may not be the best time. Maybe that pool needs to open in August. Maybe it needs to open in September. And so we are leaning on them to provide us now with a suggested timeline. So we don't jump out there and say, oh, we're going to have someone by December. They may come back and say, hey, the best time to open up this pool is October. And you'll get great candidates. And so we're expecting them to come into Memphis, sit down with a meeting, not a Zoom. We need a face-to-face.
Exactly.
So that we can make sure this time we're talking the same language, we're walking the same walk, and we are marching to the same tune.
I remember watching that board meeting and kind of halfway feeling bad for the consultants, Chairwoman. And so I'm so glad that you're bringing them in. You're going to do the face-to-face. You're going to walk them through what that new criteria is as you open up the pool.
And what you have to be reminded, Deidre, I started this conversation around policy with the board in October, and I asked them to go back and look at this policy, and no one wanted to touch it.
Right.
And thank God for Tamika, because what she did was says, you must deal with this work.
Right.
You have to. And she compelled us to have to think together, be honest at the table, and say what you mean and mean what you say. And so I'm grateful that now the effective 8, we will be working together. We're stronger together. We will be respectful of each other, and we will continue to do this work and march forward.
That's wonderful. So what are you saying, to the person who says that this process is really taking too long? I think you basically answered that question, but I want to reiterate it.
Who would think that this process is taking too long, I want to reference a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The time is always right to do what is right. It's not about how long we're taking. It's the time to do what's right. We are elected to be responsible for 110,000 students and over 14,000 employees. We must get it right on behalf of our students. And I will stay on that. I will lean on that, and I'm standing on that. What I can promise the people in Memphis and Shelby County, we are going to get it right.
That's important. Because they're looking to you. They really are looking to you. And like you said, you're one individual, but it is an elected board.
That's right.
And it's 8 of you now.
It's 8.
And I know the county commission is going to move forward with an appointment of a 9th. And so, it's up to you to make that right decision.
Someone asked me the other night in an interview, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And I said, the Bible says it best. In this life, you shall have trials and tribulations. The board will have trials and tribulations, but we will overcome that, and we will continue to march forward, and you will see us marching as a unit. And I'm just excited about the future of Memphis Shelby County Schools. I'm grateful for my colleagues, and I'm grateful that we can agree to disagree.
Right.
But when the band comes out to march, they all march to the same beat. 8 effective people will demonstrate to this community. We are together, and we are 901 strong. Watch us get it right and continue to move forward.
Well, and the most important thing about that, Bishop, is you all are individuals.
That's right.
You all have your different perspectives, life experiences that you bring to the table, but at the end of the day, collectively, you all have what's in the best interest of all of the students in the district.
And I do believe, Deidre, that for my colleagues, we wake up thinking about the students of Memphis Shelby County Schools. Yeah. We go to bed thinking about the students of Memphis Shelby County Schools. And for me, I'm always praying for my colleagues, for my district, for my interim superintendent, because prayer changes things, it changes situations. Yes. And so even as I pray for them, I'm just excited to be leading in such a time as this.
So Chairwoman, tell me, and I know I've gone back and forth and I've called her bishop. She is a bishop, okay? So, but Chairwoman, walk us through what's going to make your constituents here in Memphis and Shelby County feel comfortable that you're right now about to open up this process and you feel like it's going to be successful.
I've invited the community from the beginning of this to be a part of this journey, created a community advisory board, hosted 6 community meetings, met with students. I've always connected the community and involved them in the process. But I think the community will now have greater respect for us because they are going to see us keep marching, keep going forward, and we're going to get it right. And so for the community, I say to you, trust the process. Trust the people that you have elected to do this work. We are capable. We are open to having the community to have conversations with us. I've not shied away from the community. I've talked from Memphis Live to anybody else who called and wanted to have a conversation. And so we welcome community input. And I just want to put that out there. I didn't ban anybody, Deidre.
Yes.
I'm not the chief of security for Memphis Shelby County Schools, nor do I have that authority. But you've even watched me sit at the table and say, guys, let's work this out. Because I believe that we can fix our own problems. Right. And so I'm that person that even when things are off track, the God in me says, let's sit down and let's work this thing out. And I will continue to be the leader that I'm expected to be. I spent 38 years working 34 years teaching for Memphis City, 4 years as a supervisor of extended learning for Shelby County Schools. Yes. Deidre, when I think about 38 years, and I'm sitting on the board with an opportunity to be a leader, with an opportunity to take my knowledge and apply it to policies and to the decisions that are made, I realized God brought me full circle for such a time as this. So I take my position serious as the chairwoman of Memphis Shelby County Schools. I take my position serious because I have children that are now looking at me. And for that next young person in politics or thinking about going into politics, what do I say? Chase your dream, follow your dream, but never quit. Yeah. Never quit what you were assigned or elected to do because somebody is looking at you, somebody is watching you, and they are holding us accountable.
They are definitely holding you accountable. I'm so glad you mentioned, because that was one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, Chairwoman, is you've brought, and your lens is different from your colleagues that are sitting on the school board now because you are a former educator.
Exactly.
And you've touched the lives. I think about you touched Brian Malone's life.
Oh, yes.
And Patrick Malone III's life.
Yes.
And so, watching you on the board, leading this board as you decide what policy is, how does that make you feel?
Emotional sometimes to think about God took a young black girl from North Memphis, from Badwater, let me be real specific, who grew up in a time where I was living some of the civil rights issues. I showed up at Valentine School, Deidre, in my second semester of 3rd grade, from Caldwell to Valentine. My community was a Jewish community. Barronhurst Synagogue was across the street. There were less than 4 blacks in any classes that I was in. As a matter of fact, there were probably less than 15 black children in Valentine School. And so I had to live through that. In the 4th grade, I spent the year in the clothroom. The teacher wouldn't let me out. I failed. I don't share this testimony, but I went to summer school and made straight A's. I failed the 5th grade, but I went to summer school and failed the 6th grade. So you must understand, I lived through this where people didn't want to teach children who looked like me. But when I got to Snowden in the 7th grade, it was a shift for me. Teachers cared about me. I was smart, and I knew that I was smart. And they rechanneled that energy from those scars that I had from elementary. And so when you bring it around, I want to make sure that no child experience what I experienced. Yeah. I want every child to know that in this district, we love you, we care about you, and you will be educated by folk who get paid to educate you. And I know we have great leaders, great educators in this district. I fight like hell for children because I want to see the equity. I want to see buildings where students won't leave this district without saying, I got an opportunity from pre-K to 12th grade. I got to attend a brand new school. Our children deserve better. And it is my responsibility and my colleagues to work with our county commissioners to make sure that our students get to have a brand new Collierville, a brand new Barlick, a brand new. When I go and visit these schools, I leave and I cry all the way back around 385 because I think about what I'm driving back to and what I just left from a tour of Collierville. I have work to do. I don't have time to play. We have work to do, and you are going to watch us to continue to do this work and get it right.
Chairwoman, that just made me think about, I saw a story. You were interviewed by CNN, I believe, and it was about the schools and some of the dilapidated schools, and I know that you all have a strategy. We just need funding.
That's right. That's right. We have the plan.
Right.
You know, county commissioners took an opportunity 2 weeks ago, last week, to go visit schools with us. Okay. Commissioner Bradford, Bibbs, and Caswell. And I captured some of their faces when I was taking pictures. Because it's one thing to fund my district, but it's another thing to go and identify and see what needs to be funded. And Charlie, I felt like he was probably shedding some tears when we went in Fraser High School. And there's a shower with holes in the wall and concrete on the floor, but yet they were the winning champs from the football season, despite of that. But what would happen when you go from Treadwell to Trezevant, looking at Kingsbury, where you're like, oh my God, I didn't know students were in buildings that look like this, but we pull up at the new Parkway Village. But what did you see outside of Parkway Village? A sign saying how they have achieved and how their scores are so high, award-winning. Every student would work that hard, Deidre, if you put them in a desirable building. Right. Guess what? I would go in there and perform. And so I'm grateful for the county commissioners who took time out of their schedule to make that journey with us. But I am expecting that we will get the funding that we need so that our students will have an opportunity to go in warm, welcome, and inviting buildings. You know, you go in a bathroom that's painted black. Yeah. It's so depressing. Right. And so we have work to do. We don't have time to sit around and fight and argue. We have work to do, and we are committed to this work. And you will continue to see us work to make sure that it's done.
Chairwoman, you are you and the interim superintendent for the district are leading a district that is primarily, I know it's all of the county, but the largest piece of it is your urban core.
That's right.
With a lot of the schools, or you have some new schools, but a lot of the schools are dilapidated. And just being in, you know, when a child walks into that type of environment and is supposed to learn. Right. You know, some of them come from homes, you That's know, right. one parent households that, you know, the only meal they might get that day is the meal that you serve. You know, as a former educator, what would you tell that new educator that is having to walk in that classroom and having to deal with that student?
Wow.
You know?
I would say to that new educator, make the best out of what you have. Yeah. Never give up on our students. And provide them with the wraparound services to address those issues at home. I mean, when Johnny comes in, and Johnny missed breakfast, because he didn't get there on time, I would say to a new teacher, keep some snacks in your drawers like I used to do. And when a child said they were hungry, I would give them a snack because I need them to be able to focus and to learn. I can't do it if my stomach is hurting. Yeah. I would say to a new teacher, when I was teaching at Snowden and someone said something about how a child looked, I would say to my colleagues, let's take up some money and buy Johnny a coat. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to talk about a child, be willing to invest in that child. Never make a child feel bad. You don't know if the electricity was off. You don't know what they are leaving from, coming to. And so when they get there, you make them feel welcome. You make them feel special because you don't know what that child might grow up to be. And I've lived long enough now. The students that I thought, wow, he was so horrible in 5th grade, they're doctors, they're attorneys. They are everywhere I go. They're principals of schools and teachers. And so I know that God was not finished with those kids in 5th grade, but it was my job to nurture them. And they laugh. And they say, but Miss Greene, you were so hard on me, but thank you because you made me better. And that's what it's all about as a teacher, encouraging them and making them better.
You know, I'm so glad to hear you say that because my sister Kelly, that's what she would do. She would have snacks at her desk to make sure, you know, if a student hadn't had anything to eat, she'd provide that. And she would go out and she'd buy some clothes.
Absolutely.
For those students.
I would buy deodorant.
Yes.
Washing powder.
Yes.
Here's 50 cents to go wash those clothes tonight. And I remember when I was a teacher at Lester, I would give money to go to the Bobby shop. And I think about where in the world did I get money from?
Well, but God was able to bless me to be able to be a blessing to someone else. And so as an educator, what I say to new teachers, you have a school board commissioner who gets a budget of $125,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And for some of my schools, I purchase washers and dryers. So they don't talk about the clothes are dirty. You wash them. Right.
I provided money for them to have a clothes closet to give students brand new clothes. I'm not talking about somebody else's clothes. I am saying to new teachers, build a relationship with your school board commissioner and have an ask from them. How can we support you? Every school I walk into before I leave, I sit down with every principal and say, how can I support you? I put money into student funds. I put money into teacher funds to make sure teachers are fed, make sure teachers have snacks, but to make sure they have money to provide for students, those things that the regular budget don't allow them to do. I know for Mr. Vernon, I'm shouting him out at Snowden, who's a guidance counselor, I provide that money to make sure there's some snacks there for students when they need something to eat. And so I think when teachers care, you will know that, and students will know that, and they will work and perform academically because they know that somebody love, care, and somebody is pushing them each and every day to be the best, but do your best.
And let me just say to our viewers, what she's saying, she is definitely telling the truth because I've been in a meeting with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and some principals showed up to the meeting, and all out of the blue, Chairwoman said, because you showed up, I'm making a donation to your school. Thank you for showing up and representing Memphis and Shelby County School. So, Chairwoman. You got all those titles.
My real title is the real Reverend Al Greene.
That's
so
true.
I'm cool with that.
That's so true. I want you to know how much, we appreciate you. And I can say that as a parent and as a grandparent because I've seen you work as an educator. I've been there and I've seen it. And so I want you to know how much I appreciate your perspective as a board member and as a board leader, and continue to do what you do. If there's one last thing you'd like to share with viewers that are watching our show about what you and the board are doing to try and make sure that the district is successful, what would that be?
We are working together.
That's important.
It's important for the public to understand we are working together. Don't allow the news to persuade your view about this board. Don't allow one headline to destroy your trust in 8 more individuals. We just passed a historical budget, and nobody is talking about it. Teachers will see more money than they've seen in a while. Allow our good news to be the news that you trust and the news that you carry, because we always have something great going on in Memphis, Shelby County Schools. Stay tuned because this year, it's going to get better. 2023-2024, we welcome a brand new school year. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. I'm the real Reverend Al Greene, always wishing you much love and much happiness.
Thank you, Chairwoman Althea Greene, for joining Dialogue with Deidre. So glad that you could be with us today. And you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to attend the board meetings. Right. You can actually see them in person, in action, or you can go online. I think it's still online and stream it. Yes. So, you know, these board members are elected by you. And so, as Bishop Chairwoman said, she wants you to hold them accountable. And you can do that by showing up and listening and learning about what they do, learn about their budget process, and make sure you know who your school board commissioner is. Absolutely. And if you have any questions or concerns, make sure you reach out to them.
That's right. Email us.
Yes.
Go on that website. All of our emails are on there. And I want parents, when you have a problem at a school and you've talked to the principal and you feel like no one is listening, they really don't care. Do like other parents do, Deidre. Right. They reach out, they call me, they email me. I show up at hearings with them because I want parents to understand I'm there to support you. Exactly. If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. But when this district is wrong, I'm going to hold our administration accountable.
Absolutely, because that's your job.
That's my job.
So thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you.
Viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you appreciate this show. Make sure you like us on our YouTube page, on our Facebook pages, and make sure you follow us so you'll know every time a Dialogue with Deidre pops up on YouTube that you're notified. Again, thank you for joining us and have a blessed day.